The crystalline viewport, a shimmering expanse spanning half the observation deck, offered a disquieting panorama of the Jevler Nebula, its emerald tendrils twisting through the black like spectral warnings. Within the command conclave of the Xylos Imperium, the air itself seemed to hum with suppressed anxieties, a low, resonant frequency barely perceptible beneath the drone of the life support systems. High Regent Valerius, his segmented carapace a deep, polished obsidian, traced the swirling gas clouds with a clawed digit, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the distant, churning maelstrom of nascent stars. The light, usually a soothing cerulean in this chamber, now flickered with an agitated ruby, cast by the holographic projection at the center of the vast, circular table. It was a projection of an unknown vessel, singular and defiant, hovering at the very edge of Imperium space, its silent presence a stark, unsettling challenge to millennia of unchallenged dominion. Regent Valerius, the sonorous voice of Ambassador Cathar echoed, though Cathar remained motionless, a hulking figure of segmented chitin and ancient wisdom, his lower mandibles clicking softly with a barely contained agitation. The analysis remains unchanged. The vessel's energy signature is anomalous. Its propulsion method defies all known principles of quantum gravitic manipulation or subspace drive. It is, by all indicators, a fabrication beyond our current understanding, or perhaps a deliberate act of obfuscation. Valerius turned slowly, his myriad eyes focusing on Cathar, then sweeping across the assembled conclave, the strategists, the xenologists, the temporal analysts, each a pillar of the Imperium's intellectual might, now reduced to an uneasy silence. The atmosphere was thick with the scent of ozone and the subtle metallic tang of fear. For cycles, the Imperium had expanded, absorbing, integrating, or neutralizing all encountered species. Its borders were sacrosanct, its technological supremacy a foundational truth. Yet this single alien ship, seemingly inert but undeniably present, had shattered that certainty. Obfuscation, Ambassador, implies a known entity seeking to conceal its true nature, Valerius articulated, his voice a low, guttural purr that nevertheless carried immense authority. This is a blank slate, no known alloys in its hull composition, no discernible weapon systems, yet its energy output suggests the capacity for immense power generation. Its communications arrays are active, but transmit only a complex series of mathematical constants, prime number sequences, and abstract geometric patterns. It is as if they are speaking a language we have yet to even conceive of. Elder Esthar, the Imperium's foremost temporal archivist, a being of shimmering, almost translucent flesh, shifted within his nutrient bath, sending ripples across the viscous liquid. His voice, a whisper of static and ancient data, projected directly into the neural implants of the conclave. The historical databases have been scoured, Regent. All known species, all pre-contact narratives, all dormant scout reports. There is no record, no legend, no whisper of a civilization capable of such craft, let alone one that would approach our borders with such inscrutability. Our protocols dictate immediate containment, or if necessary, defensive neutralization. Yet the energy readings indicate a shield matrix that would require unprecedented force to breach. The projections are alarming. A holographic rendering of the vessel's projected shield integrity shimmered above the table, displaying a deep, impenetrable azure. Attempts to penetrate it with simulated energy pulses had resulted in immediate dissipation, the energy seemingly absorbed, or perhaps redirected without a trace. The strategists, their multi-jointed limbs clicking against their polished consoles, remained silent, their customary confidence replaced by a palpable tension. So we are faced with an unknown, possessing technology we cannot comprehend, communicating in a manner we cannot decipher, and capable of defending itself against our primary offensive capabilities, Valerius summarized, his gaze lingering on the image of the silent ship. And it simply waits, at the precise point of our recent navigational buoy deployment, almost as if it anticipated our expansion. The silence that followed was profound, broken only by the rhythmic thrum of the conclave chamber itself. The implications were staggering. For the Imperium, to not understand was to be vulnerable. To be vulnerable was anathema. The weight of their civilization's destiny, the security of their billions of subjects, rested on their ability to interpret this unprecedented event. Ambassador Cathar finally spoke, his voice lower, more guttural now. Regent, the species of the outer reaches, those we have integrated into the Imperium over the last few cycles, they speak of ancient, forgotten tales, legends. of the makers, beings of immense power who once shaped the nebulae themselves. These are mere fables, of course primitive superstitions, but the description of their vessels, often depicted as silent, unadorned monoliths of impossible materials, bear a disquieting resemblance to this craft. His mandibles clicked again, a gesture of deep unease. However, these legends also speak of their disappearance millennia ago, a civilization that simply vanished. Valerius processed this, his multifaceted eyes narrowing. Primitive legends, ambassador, are often distortions of forgotten truths, but to suggest this is a return of the makers, that is a leap of faith for which we have no empirical basis. Our current and most pressing concern is understanding this immediate threat or potential interlocutor. What is their intent? Why now? And why such an understated yet utterly unyielding presence? The xenologists, a cohort of beings with complex olfactory and sonic sensory organs, offered their assessments. Their readings, filtered through countless species psychologies, yielded nothing definitive. The vessel transmitted no recognizable emotional or intellectual intent. It was simply there, a cosmic enigma. The fear began to spread not as a panicked wave, but as a deep, chilling dread that permeated the very foundations of the Imperium's self-assured existence. Their history, a triumphant march across the galaxy, had always been one of predictable conflicts, understood challenges. This was different. This was a silent, unreadable void at their very doorstep. "We have attempted a range of communications protocols," reported Data Minister Vikal, his optical sensors glowing with frantic activity. "Universal mathematical expressions, rudimentary astronomical coordinates, even visual representations of our own biological structure and technological progression. All have been met with silence. Or rather, the continued transmission of their complex mathematical sequences, which we are now attempting to decompose into potential linguistic structures, but with limited success. The complexity far exceeds any known algorithmic pattern we have encountered." Valerius pressed a claw to his forehead carapace, a rare gesture of internal strain. "This cannot stand. We are the Xylos Imperium. We do not stand idly by while an unknown entity probes our defenses with an unreadable silence. Initiate Protocol 7 Theta. Dispatch a diplomatic vessel escorted by our most advanced defensive cruisers. Maintain maximum sensor vigilance. Approach with caution, but also with an unmistakable display of our power. Let them understand that while we seek communication, we are also capable of decisive action." The decision resonated through the conclave, a mixture of relief and heightened tension. Action, even uncertain action, was preferable to the debilitating stasis of the unknown. As the projection of the alien vessel remained, a beacon of bewildering stillness, the Xylos Imperium prepared for its first direct encounter with the utterly, terrifyingly inexplicable. The emerald tendrils of the Jevler Nebula seemed to pulse with a new, ominous light. The Xylos diplomatic flagship, the purity of intent, a sleek vessel bristling with hidden defensive systems and shimmering with ceremonial regalia, glided through the void, its escorts forming a protective delta formation. Ambassador Cathar stood on the bridge, his segmented form rigid with a mix of apprehension and duty. The unknown vessel, now magnified on the main view screen, still maintained its enigmatic silence. It was larger than anticipated, its proportions elegant yet alien, devoid of any visible seams or ports. A perfect, polished obsidian egg suspended in the cosmic tapestry. "Status of the unknown vessel?" Cathar inquired, his voice a low rumble. "No change, Ambassador," replied Commander ZH-Car, a younger Xylos officer, his mandibles twitching with contained nervousness. "Energy signatures remain stable, shield integrity holding. No discernible movement, no new transmissions beyond the continuous mathematical sequence." Cathar felt a deep, almost instinctual unease. The complete lack of identifiable intent was unnerving. Every species he had encountered, even the most aggressive, had exhibited some discernible tell, some pattern of behavior or energy fluctuation that betrayed their purpose. This vessel was a void, a perfect mirror reflecting only the Imperium's own anxiety. "Initiate the first contact protocol," Cathar commanded. "Broadcast the universal greeting sequences. Focus on visual and mathematical commonalities. Offer a direct invitation to open a communication channel." The purity of intent pulsed with a series of complex data bursts, a symphony of mathematical theorems and astronomical charts designed to convey intelligence and peaceful intent. For a full cycle, the broadcasts flowed, meticulously crafted and universally applicable. The WN vessel remained inert, a silent, inscrutable monument to an alien will. Then a flicker, not a change in energy, not a new transmission, but a subtle shift in the vessel's surface. Tiny points of light too perfect to be random began to emerge, forming patterns. The patterns coalesced, shifted, and expanded, forming increasingly complex pictograms on the vessel's dark hull. They depicted celestial bodies, then basic biological structures, then abstract representations of physical laws. It was a visual language, undeniably. And then a figure appeared, a bipedal form, slender with 2 limbs and a single head, devoid of carapace or scales. A naked, vulnerable form, yet radiating an odd, almost serene confidence. "They are responding visually," Commander ZHK breathed, his nervousness momentarily replaced by awe. A biological form, their own perhaps. Cathar felt a profound sense of disorientation. The form was unlike any he had catalogued. No complex sensory organs, no visible defense mechanisms, no robust outer shell. It seemed delicate. Yet the vessel itself was undeniably powerful. The contrast was jarring. Then the pictograms shifted again. The bipedal form was shown manipulating complex machinery, charting star systems, building structures of immense scale. It was a rapid, distilled history, conveyed in symbols that, despite their alien nature, conveyed a clear message of technological advancement and intellectual prowess. And then the most unsettling image of all. The bipedal form was depicted in a series of scenarios, aiding smaller, weaker forms, offering complex scientific principles to less advanced species, resolving conflicts with diplomacy rather than force. It was a portrayal of altruism, of wisdom, of a profound ethical framework. But these were mere images, easily fabricated. "They are presenting themselves as benevolent," Cathar observed, his voice devoid of emotion, a mask over his internal turmoil. "Or they wish us to perceive them as such. This level of visual communication without direct linguistic interaction is audacious. It demands a level of trust we are not yet prepared to offer." As Cathar spoke, the silent ship emitted a single, short burst of a new signal. It was not a mathematical sequence this time, but a series of precise frequency modulations, an intricate pattern of sound waves. The Imperium's universal translator algorithm struggled for a moment, then locked on. A voice, calm and clear, filled the bridge of the purity of intent. It spoke in a language that, while alien, was immediately translatable, its cadence steady, its tone remarkably devoid of aggression. "We are the species designated by our star chart as humanity. We mean no harm. Our presence here is a matter of observation and, if possible, peaceful contact. We have detected your expansion for some time and sought to understand your intentions before initiating direct communication. We believe we have sufficient data to warrant this overture. We wish to establish diplomatic relations." The voice was ordinary, not booming, not menacing, not even overtly regal, just calm, clear, and direct. The simplicity of the statement, following the spectacle of the visual history, was itself disorienting. Humanity, a name simple and almost melodic. Cathar took a deep, shuddering breath, his segmented carapace expanding slightly. "Humans," he echoed, testing the sound of the word. "Their directness is unusual. No elaborate titles, no ritualistic greetings, just a factual statement. Ambassador, their star chart designation, humanity," Commander ZHK interjected. "It seems to refer to themselves. Not a designation for their home system or their empire, but for their species itself, as if their entire identity is contained within their biological nature." This observation was profoundly unsettling to Cathar. The Xylos, like most advanced species, identified themselves by their homeworld, then their imperium, then their specific lineage. To identify oneself purely by species felt primitive or perhaps strangely self-referential. It hinted at a deep internal focus, a unified consciousness beyond mere tribalism. "Send a return transmission," Cathar commanded, his voice regaining its customary authority. "State our designation, the Xylos Imperium. Demand their origin point, their purpose, and their full intentions in approaching our established borders. Maintain a firm yet diplomatic tone." The purity of intent pulsed again, sending the Xylos' stern yet formal response. The silence from the human vessel was brief, only a few moments, then the calm voice returned. "Xylos Imperium, we acknowledge your query. Our origin point is a distant stellar nursery far beyond your current exploratory range, Our purpose is exploration, knowledge acquisition, and the peaceful establishment of relations with intelligent life. Our intentions are as stated, diplomacy and mutual understanding. We detected your expansion, its accelerating trajectory, and the pattern of integration you employ. We believed it prudent to make our presence known before your expansion encompassed our own observation outposts, to avoid any unintended misunderstandings or territorial disputes. The response was meticulous, almost clinical in its detail, yet utterly devoid of evasiveness. They admitted to monitoring the Imperium, to understanding its expansionist tendencies, and yet they presented this not as a threat, but as a proactive measure for peaceful coexistence. Cathar felt a cold prickle of unease. They had been observed. For how long, how much did these humans know about the Xylos Imperium, their strengths, their weaknesses, their internal politics? The thought was deeply disquieting. They are remarkably candid, Cathar murmured, more to himself than to his crew. And their understanding of our expansion patterns, it implies a sophisticated long-range detection capability, or perhaps a level of temporal analysis we did not anticipate. The human vessel then transmitted a new image appearing on the view screen. It was a star chart, vast and intricate. On it, two distinct regions were highlighted. One was the Xylos Imperium's known territory, accurately delineated. The other, far more distant, was a previously uncharted expanse, dotted with faint, unexplored systems. Within this second region, a single star system was marked, a small, unremarkable yellow sun. "This is our home system," the human voice stated, calm and unwavering. "And this," the image shifted, highlighting several faint points of light even further beyond the Xylos Imperium's reach, "are the locations of our observation outposts established over the last few centuries. We have been present in this region observing for some time. We are a species of explorers. We wish to respectfully request permission to establish a formal diplomatic mission within your territory, and to offer similar access to our own, should your Imperium desire." Cathar stared at the star chart, a chilling realization dawning. The humans had not simply stumbled upon their border. They had been observing, quietly, patiently, for centuries. Their observation outposts were deep within regions the Imperium had considered uninhabited or too far-flung to be of immediate concern. The arrogance of the Xylos, their assumption of galactic primacy, suddenly felt fragile, naive. The sheer audacity of the request, to establish a diplomatic mission within Imperium space, while simultaneously offering access to their own, previously concealed, territories, was breathtaking. It was a gesture of trust, or perhaps a carefully calculated gamble, offered by a species that had clearly already assessed the Imperium's every move. "Regent Valerius must be informed immediately," Cathar commanded, his voice tight. "This changes everything. We are no longer dealing with a random contact. We are dealing with a species that has chosen to reveal itself on its own terms and with a disconcerting depth of knowledge about us." The Xylos Imperium, for the first time in its recorded history, was not the sole, unchallenged arbiter of its own destiny in this quadrant of the galaxy. A new player had emerged, and their opening move was a quiet, almost unsettling declaration of profound, ancient observation. The command conclave was in a state of controlled chaos. The data stream from the purity of intent flowed across the central holographic projection, displaying the human star chart, the images of their bipedal form, and the transcribed dialogue. High Regent Valerius absorbed it all, his multifaceted eyes swiveling, taking in the shocked expressions of his advisors. "Centuries," Valerius articulated, the word a rasp in his throat. "They have been here observing us for centuries, and we, in our supreme arrogance, were entirely oblivious." The self-reproach in his voice was rare, stinging. Ambassador Cathar, now physically present in the conclave chamber, stood before the regent, his carapace still rigid with the memory of the encounter. "Regent, their technology for stealth and long-range observation appears to be beyond anything in our arsenals. To maintain observation outposts undetected for such a duration, within what we considered our own sphere of influence, it is a feat of engineering and operational security that borders on the mythical." Elder Esthar, ever the historian, emerged further from his nutrient bath, his translucent skin pulsing with agitated light. "The Makers, legends often speak of their ability to perceive beyond the veil of normal spacetime, to be present yet unseen. The correlation, while still speculative, is becoming increasingly potent." "Speculation is a luxury we cannot afford," Valerius countered, his voice sharp. We must deal with the tangible reality. They have revealed themselves not as an invading force but as a diplomatic entity, and they have offered us a choice: engage or remain ignorant of a power that has, for all intents and purposes, been silently observing us from the shadows for our entire modern history. Data Minister Vikal, his optical sensors flickering, projected a new set of calculations. Regent, our intelligence analysts have been working on the human data. Their communication is remarkably consistent. The mathematical sequences they initially transmitted, when fully decomposed, revealed not a language, but a comprehensive, universal theory of everything. A unified field theory that reconciles all fundamental forces, a framework for understanding reality that far exceeds our most advanced theoretical physics. It suggests a level of scientific advancement that is humbling. A collective intake of breath rippled through the conclave. A unified field theory. This was the holy grail of Xylo's science, a concept that had eluded their greatest minds for millennia. To possess such knowledge was to command the very fabric of existence, and the humans had simply transmitted it, almost as a preamble to their introduction. They offered it as a greeting, Valerius asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Not explicitly, Regent, Vikal clarified. It was embedded within their initial mathematical transmissions. We mistook it for complex linguistic structures. Only when we stripped away the contextual noise did the underlying elegance of the unified theory become apparent. It was, in effect, a demonstration of their intellectual capacity, subtly interwoven into their first attempt at contact. The revelation was a hammer blow to the Imperium's collective ego. They had prided themselves on their intellectual prowess, their scientific breakthroughs. And yet, this unassuming species, calling themselves humanity, had casually presented a piece of knowledge that redefined the very limits of their understanding, almost as an opening pleasantry. And their ethical framework, as depicted in their visual history, Valerius pressed. Is that also a calculated facade, or does it correlate with any discernible patterns in their data? Ambassador Cathar stepped forward. Regent, the xenological analysis of their visual history, combined with the underlying philosophical constructs we are now extracting from their mathematical transmissions, suggests a strong emphasis on preservation, cooperation, and conflict resolution through nonviolent means. There is a deep-seated value placed on life, particularly intelligent life, and a complex understanding of long-term consequences. Their social structures, as far as we can discern, are designed to minimize internal conflict and foster collective advancement. So they present themselves as benevolent, possess technology beyond our comprehension, possess a unified field theory, and have been observing us for centuries without detection, Valerius mused, the implications swirling in his mind. This is not a species to be underestimated or to be challenged without extreme caution. Their power is subtle, their approach methodical, and their knowledge of us extensive. He paused, then articulated his next command, his voice firm, decisive. We will engage, we will accept their offer of a diplomatic mission, and we will send our own small, highly skilled team to their home system, under the guise of reciprocal diplomacy. But their home system is not the primary objective. We will seek to understand their observation outposts. We must ascertain the true extent of their capabilities and their knowledge. This is no longer about asserting dominance. This is about understanding a new, profoundly influential force in the galaxy, a force that has chosen, after prolonged silence, to finally speak. A small, single Xylos diplomatic shuttle, stripped of all overt armament and painted with the symbols of peace and academic inquiry, ventured forth from Imperium space. Its destination, the precise coordinates provided by humanity. Aboard were 3 Xylos, a diplomat, a xenolinguist, and a historian, all equipped with the latest interpretive technologies and psychological profiles. Their mission was one of unprecedented risk, yet unparalleled potential. As the shuttle transitioned into human space, the landscape shifted dramatically. Not the pristine, artificially ordered systems of the Imperium, but a vibrant, almost chaotic stellar region. Nebulae pulsed with blues and purples, planets glittered with unmined resources, and nascent stars flared with youthful intensity. It was raw, untamed, and breathtakingly beautiful. Then they saw it. Not a single planet, but an entire system teeming with life. And not just biological life, but structures of impossible scale. Orbital habitats, vast and shimmering, encircled multiple worlds. Gigantic solar arrays, kilometers in diameter, drank the energy of the yellow sun. And most startlingly, a colossal ring structure, dozens of times the size of any Xylo's construction, encircled the PR. Imari habitable planet, shimmering with an iridescent glow. It was a Dyson swarm, but of a design and magnitude that defied Xylo's engineering principles. Regent Valerius, the historian Eskel, transmitted back to the conclave, his voice filled with awe. The scale of their civilization, it is beyond our projections. The Dyson swarm alone represents an energy-harvesting capability that could power a minor imperium. And the sheer density of their orbital infrastructure, it is staggering. This is not a nascent civilization. This is a species that has mastered its stellar environment on a scale we previously considered theoretical. The Xylo's diplomatic shuttle was approached not by warships, but by small, sleek craft, almost toy-like in comparison to their own vessels, yet moving with an elegant precision that suggested immense underlying power. They escorted the Xylo's shuttle towards a vast orbital station, shaped like a colossal, multifaceted crystal. Within the docking bay, the three Xylos stepped out, their respiratory systems automatically filtering the human atmosphere, their optical sensors adjusting to the softer, warmer light. And there they were, humans. Taller than the initial pictograms suggested, their forms elegant, their skin tones varied, their expressions serene. They were not armored, not overtly threatening, yet they radiated an undeniable aura of quiet strength. The lead human, a female with eyes the color of deep space, extended a bare hand, a gesture of peace they had anticipated through their advanced xenological algorithms. Ambassador Xylos, a master of diplomatic protocol, reciprocated, touching her hand with a carefully articulated claw. The contact was soft, warm, almost vulnerable. "Welcome, Xylos Imperium," the human stated, her voice the same calm, clear tone they had heard in the initial transmissions. "I am Envoy Kaya. We are honored by your presence." The Xylos were struck by the directness, the simplicity. No elaborate titles, no ceremonial flourishes, just a clear, concise greeting. It was disarming in its earnestness. "Envoy Kaya," Ambassador Xylos replied, his voice carefully modulated. "We are similarly honored. Your stellar achievements, they are truly remarkable. We confess, the scale of your civilization exceeds our initial projections." Kaya's lips curved slightly, a gesture the Xylos recognized as a smile. "We have had much time, Ambassador, and a unique set of challenges that forced us to innovate beyond conventional limitations." This last statement, spoken with such casual inflection, sent a shiver through Ambassador Xylos. What challenges? What limitations? The unspoken depths of human history, hinted at by their immense technological achievements and their deep ethical framework, began to unfold before them. They were not dealing with a simple alien species, but with a legacy of struggle and triumph that had forged them into something profoundly different. The humans were calm, ethical, logical, and undeniably powerful, but not in the way the Xylos had ever conceived of power. The diplomatic mission unfolded over several cycles, a meticulous dance of cultural exchange and scientific revelation. The Xylos team, under the guidance of Envoy Kaya and her human counterparts, traversed the human home system, observing their vast orbital cities, their thriving terrestrial biospheres, and their subtle yet pervasive technological integration. What struck the Xylos most profoundly was not merely the scale of human achievement, but its fundamental philosophy. Humanity, it became clear, had embraced a philosophy of sustainable growth and meticulous resource management. Their Dyson swarm, a marvel of engineering, was not simply for power generation, but also for environmental stabilization, regulating solar flares and shielding their primary worlds from cosmic radiation. Their orbital habitats were not sterile constructs, but vibrant ecosystems, mimicking natural environments with breathtaking fidelity. Each human city, whether orbital or terrestrial, was a testament to biomimicry and ecological balance. "We learned early," Envoy Kaya explained during a tour of a hydroponic orbital habitat, its interior a riot of verdant growth and shimmering water features, that our technological prowess alone was insufficient to guarantee our long-term survival. The needs of the collective, the health of our environment, and the ethical treatment of all life became paramount. Waste, pollution, uncontrolled consumption, these were threats more insidious than any external aggressor. Ambassador Xylos, his translator implant relaying Kaya's words with perfect nuance, felt a profound internal shift. The Xylos Imperium, for all its might, still grappled with resource depletion and environmental degradation on its older worlds. Their solution had always been expansion, acquiring new resources. Humanity's solution was internal optimization, a profound recalibration of their relationship with their environment and with each other. Your internal social harmony, then, Ambassador Xylos articulated, is a direct result of these philosophical underpinnings. Kaya nodded, her eyes calm and insightful. Precisely. We found that societal discord often stemmed from resource scarcity, perceived injustice, or a lack of purpose. By providing for the fundamental needs of all, ensuring equitable access to education and opportunity, and fostering a culture of collective endeavor, we largely mitigated these historical challenges. Our technology is a tool, not an end in itself. Its ultimate purpose is to enhance flourishing for all sentient beings. This was a radical concept for the Xylos. Their imperium, while generally stable, still contained stratified castes, political factions, and occasional bursts of unrest among newly integrated species. The human model suggested a path beyond perpetual competition, a truly unified civilization. The Xylos historian, Eskel, spent his time analyzing the vast data repositories humanity made available. He discovered that humanity's journey had been fraught with cataclysmic wars, environmental collapses, and existential crises. They had nearly destroyed themselves multiple times. It was from the ashes of these self-inflicted wounds that their current philosophical and technological paradigm had emerged. Their unified field theory, their mastery of sustainable engineering, their profound ethical code, all were born from deep suffering and a species-wide commitment to never repeat their past mistakes. They are not inherently benevolent, Regent, Eskel transmitted in a private coded message back to Valerius. They are forged into benevolence. Their history is a chronicle of intense internal conflict, of learning the hard way. Their peace is not a natural state, but a meticulously constructed and fiercely protected equilibrium, born of existential necessity. And this, Regent, makes them far more formidable than any inherently peaceful species. They understand the darkness intimately and have chosen to transcend it. The Xylos xenolinguist, Tilar, meanwhile, delved into human communication. He discovered that their mathematical constants and geometric patterns were not just scientific, but also encoded with a highly sophisticated, abstract form of art and philosophical discourse. The unified field theory, for instance, was also a beautiful, intricate symphony, a harmonious expression of cosmic balance. Their communication was layered, multidimensional, conveying meaning on multiple levels simultaneously. During a formal meal prepared with exquisite attention to both Xylos and human dietary requirements, Kaya addressed Ambassador Xylos directly. "We understand your caution, Ambassador. We know the Xylos Imperium has a history of expansion, of absorbing those it encounters. We do not seek to disrupt your societal structures or challenge your sovereignty. We simply offer an alternative path, one of mutual respect, shared knowledge, and collective advancement. The galaxy is vast, and its wonders are endless. There is no need for conflict over finite resources when the cosmos offers infinite potential." Her words hung in the air, a quiet challenge to millennia of Xylos dogma. The Xylos Imperium had always believed in the inherent scarcity of resources, the inevitability of competition. Humanity presented a different narrative, one of abundance, if only one possessed the wisdom and the technology to harness it. The most profound reveal, however, came during a discussion about their observation outposts. Envoy Kaya led the Xylos team into a simulated environment, a perfect replica of the Jevler Nebula. "These are not merely monitoring stations," Kaya explained, pointing to shimmering points of light within the simulated nebula. "These are deep space temporal distortion nodes. They allow us to observe stellar evolution, the formation of planetary systems, and the long-term trajectories of nascent civilizations without direct interference. We gather data across vast cosmic timescales." Ambassador Xylos felt a cold dread, temporal distortion. The ability to observe not just spatially but temporally. It meant they could witness the past, perhaps even glimpse potential futures. "You have observed our entire history?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Kaya met his gaze, her expression unreadable. "In essence, yes. From the earliest emergence of your precursor species, through your unified imperium, to your current expansion. We have witnessed your triumphs, your struggles, your conflicts. We have recorded your cultural evolution, your scientific breakthroughs, and your societal challenges. This knowledge allowed us to approach you with the understanding necessary to ensure a peaceful first contact." The implications were staggering. Humanity had not just observed them. They had studied them meticulously, dispassionately for their entire recorded history. They understood the Xylos Imperium better than the Xylos understood themselves. Their calm demeanor, their ethical framework, their profound scientific knowledge, all were now seen not just as strengths, but as the calculated outcome of a species that had learned from its own difficult history, and then applied that hard-won wisdom to the observation and interaction with others. The quiet power of humanity was not in its destructive capabilities, but in its unparalleled knowledge, its profound wisdom, and its unyielding commitment to a carefully constructed ethical framework. They were not just advanced, they were evolved, both technologically and philosophically, far beyond the Xylos' most ambitious aspirations. The underestimation of humanity, so prevalent in the initial Xylos conclave, had been a catastrophic misjudgment. Their silence had been a crucible of observation, their measured response, the considered act of a species that truly understood the weight of cosmic responsibility. The Xylos Imperium, for the first time in its history, felt truly small, truly provincial. The galaxy was far more complex and far more awe-inspiring than they had ever dared to imagine. The Xylos diplomatic shuttle returned, carrying not just the delegation, but a profound shift in perspective. Ambassadors Xylos, Eskel, and Tilar presented their findings to the High Regent Valerius and the reconvened command conclave. The chamber, once filled with tension and fear of the unknown, now hummed with a different kind of awe, a quiet reverence bordering on trepidation. "Regent," Ambassador Xylos began, his voice devoid of its usual diplomatic cadence, raw with the weight of revelation. "Humanity is not merely an advanced species. They are a profound reflection of what a civilization can become when faced with its own mortality and chooses to transcend it. Their technological mastery is only surpassed by their philosophical depth." He detailed their observations, the sustainable cities, the Dyson swarm, the intricate balance between technology and nature. Eskel then presented the historical data, recounting humanity's near self-annihilation and their subsequent species-wide commitment to peace and understanding, born from the crucible of their own mistakes. "They understand conflict, Regent," Eskel stated, his translucent form glowing with conviction. "They have waged wars more devastating than any in our own history. Their peace is not a weakness, but a monumental, hard-won strength." Finally, Tilar spoke of the temporal distortion nodes, the revelation that humanity had observed the Xylos Imperium since its nascent stages. The silence in the conclave was absolute, heavier than the vacuum of space itself. Regent Valerius absorbed it all, his multifaceted eyes unblinking. The initial fear of an unknown aggressor had transmuted into the disorienting realization of their own historical short-sightedness. Humanity was not a threat to be neutralized. They were a mirror reflecting the Xylos Imperium's own limitations. "So they know us," Valerius articulated, his voice low, guttural. "They know our ambitions, our conflicts, our vulnerabilities, and yet they offer diplomacy, not conquest. They offer knowledge, not domination. Why, Ambassador? What is their ultimate motivation?" Ambassador Xylos paused, considering. "Regent," they explained it simply. "They have seen civilizations rise and fall. They understand the immense cost of conflict, both material and spiritual. They believe that true progress lies in the collective advancement of all sentient life. They observe, they learn, and when a species reaches a certain level of technological and societal maturity, they offer guidance, a hand up, not a hand wielding a weapon. They are, in essence, galactic custodians, not conquerors." This idea of a species that chose stewardship over empire was revolutionary to the Xylos. Their entire history was defined by the acquisition of power and territory. Humanity offered a paradigm shift, a different definition of greatness. "And their observation outposts," Valerius pressed. "What exactly do they observe beyond our own species?" Tilar projected a new holographic image. It depicted vast, empty regions of space, dotted with hundreds, then thousands, of the shimmering temporal distortion nodes. "These nodes, Regent, span entire quadrants of the galaxy. Humanity is not just observing us. They are observing hundreds, perhaps thousands, of other emergent species, other civilizations, across immense swaths of space and time." Valerius looked at the shimmering map, then back at his conclave, his eyes radiating a deep, unsettling understanding. "They are watching the galaxy evolve. They are charting the rise and fall of countless species, and they chose to reveal themselves to us now." The weight of this choice hung in the air. Why the Xylos? What had humanity seen in their trajectory that warranted direct contact at this specific moment? Envoy Kaya, having returned with the Xylos delegation as part of the reciprocal diplomatic exchange, stepped forward in the conclave chamber, her calm presence a stark contrast to the Xylos' internal turmoil. She stood before Valerius, her gaze steady, respectful. High Regent Valerius, Kaya's voice resonated, clear and melodic even through the Xylos translation systems. We made contact with the Xylos Imperium at this juncture not because of your vulnerabilities, but because of your strengths. We have observed your capacity for unity, your drive for innovation, and your nascent desire for a deeper understanding of the cosmos. Your expansion, while territorial, also demonstrated an impressive ability to integrate diverse species into a collective whole, albeit sometimes forcefully. We saw potential for a different path, a future where your formidable capabilities could be channeled towards greater cosmic challenges. Valerius processed her words, his segmented fingers tapping softly on his armrest. Greater cosmic challenges? Envoy, what challenges could possibly transcend the forging of a unified galactic imperium? Kaya's expression became grave, her eyes holding a depth that seemed to encompass eons. Regent, the galaxy is far older and far more complex than your current models suggest. There are forces at play, ancient and vast, that predate the rise of any known civilization. Forces that represent not just a threat to individual species, but to the very fabric of sentient existence itself. She paused, allowing her words to sink in, then a new holographic projection shimmered into existence above the conclave table. It was not a star chart, nor a depiction of a technological marvel. It was a vast, swirling maelstrom of dark energy, an inky blackness that seemed to consume the light around it, located far beyond any known galactic arm. Within its depths, faint, flickering anomalies pulsed like dying embers. We call it the Void, Kaya explained, her voice dropping to a low, somber tone. It is an anomaly that has been expanding for countless millennia. Our temporal observation nodes have detected its presence since the dawn of the earliest galaxies. It consumes stellar energy, collapses space-time, and leaves behind nothing but an absolute void. And in the last few centuries, its rate of expansion has begun to accelerate dramatically. The images shifted, showing theoretical projections of galactic collapse, entire nebulae devoured by the spreading darkness. The silence in the conclave was no longer just awe. It was genuine, primal fear. "What is it?" Valerius demanded, his voice a guttural growl. Kaya shook her head slowly. "We do not know. Our most advanced theoretical models, even those based on our unified field theory, cannot fully explain its nature or its origin. It defies conventional physics, behaves like an anti-universe, and appears to be not merely a natural phenomenon, but something directed. Something with an intelligence that is utterly alien and relentlessly destructive." She then pointed to the flickering anomalies within the void. "These are remnants, echoes of ancient civilizations, species that once thrived, that built empires, that explored the stars, much like yourselves. They were consumed. We have detected faint, fragmented signals from these remnants, desperate pleas, ancient warnings, encoded in the very fabric of space-time before they were silenced forever." A chill deeper than the void of space permeated the chamber. The Xylos Imperium, for all its pride and power, was suddenly revealed to be but a fleeting spark in an ancient, cosmic drama. All their conflicts, their territorial disputes, their ambitions, they seemed utterly trivial in the face of this existential, all-consuming threat. "This is why we sought contact, Regent," Kaya continued, her voice resonating with a quiet urgency. "This is why we have been observing, not to interfere in the petty squabbles of developing civilizations, but to identify those with the potential to stand against this ultimate darkness. The Xylos Imperium possesses strengths we believe are crucial. Your capacity for large-scale organization, your ability to integrate diverse perspectives, your formidable technological base, and your inherent drive to protect your collective. We need to unify, not under one empire, but under one common cause, the survival of all sentient life." The gravity of her words settled upon the conclave. The underestimation of humanity had been a profound error, but their subsequent reveal was not a challenge to dominance, but a desperate plea for unity. Their centuries of silent observation, their patient cultivation of knowledge, their profound ethical evolution, all were preparations for this moment, this cosmic revelation. The true enemy was not a competing species, but an annihilating force from beyond comprehension. Valerius looked from Kaya to the terrifying projection of the void, then back to his seat. Enclave members, their faces etched with a newfound, terrifying understanding. Their long, glorious history, their triumphant march across the stars, now seemed like a prelude to an apocalyptic battle for the very right to exist. And humanity, the quiet observer, the gentle giant, was extending a hand, not in subjugation, but in partnership against a foe that dwarfed all previous conceptions of fear and destruction. The lost death, the change of history, was not a human struggle, but a universal one, and humanity had been quietly preparing for it for eons. The universe, it seemed, was about to become far more dangerous and far more unified than any Xylos had ever imagined.